Chapter 5. Up to the altar and be done with it, wench, ordered a fidgeting shaman, as he gave the female a grim stare accompanied by the wrinkling of his lips to a mirthful grin of delight. That's redundant. The girl burst into a slow, steady whimper, stooping shakily to her knees, and cringing woefully from the priest with both arms wound snake-like around the bulging jade shin, rising before her scantily attired figure. I don't even know why I'm laughing this much at it. They wrote Jade. How do you do that? I don't. It's a typewriter. It's not. They're not like super easy to type on. It's like. Wouldn't you know that you had just typed that? Wouldn't you know? I don't understand how that happens. Her face was redly inflamed, from the salty flow of tears sprouting from her glassy, dilated eyeballs. A salty flow of tears, because we wouldn't have known that they were salty if he hadn't said that. We would not have known that her tears were salty. He had to describe them as salty. Also, he couldn't just say that her face was red. It was redly inflamed. He had to be very specific about that. With short, heavy footfalls, the priest approached the female, his piercing stare never wavering from her quivering young countenance. I actually kind of like the word countenance. It reminds me of reading old novels like Pride and Prejudice or Frankenstein, something like that. So, and this is actually a fine usage for it. So I actually don't mind seeing it here, and especially since they spelled it right and used it correctly. Good job, but you lose all the points that you gain for that by misspelling footfalls as footfalls. So, whatever. Halting before the terrified girl, he projected his arm outward and motioned her to arise with an upward movement of his hand. The girl's whimpering increased slightly, and she sunk closer to the floor rather than arising. The flickering torches outlined her trim build with a weird ornate glow, as it cast a ghostly shadow dancing in horrid waves of splendor over smoothly worn whiteness of the marble-hewn altar. The shaman's lips curled back farther, exposing a set of blackened, decaying molars, which transformed his slovenly grin into a wide, greasy arc of sadistic mirth, and alternately interposed into the female a strong sensation of stomach-curdling nausea. That's not how you use interposed. That's not what interposed means. Have it as you will, female, gloated the enhanced priest as he bent over at his waist, projecting his ape-like arms forward, and clasped the female's slender arms with his hairy round fists. So he's not just a priest, he's an enhanced priest. That's an extra special type of priest. I wonder how long it takes to become enhanced. With an inward surge of his biceps, he harshly jerked the trembling girl to her feet, and smothered her salty wet cheeks with the moldy touch of his decrepit, dull red lips. Ew. Why? The vile stench of the shaman's hot, fetid breath overcame the nauseated female with a deep, soul-searing sickness, causing her to wrench her head backwards and regurgitate a slimy, orange-white stream of swelling gore over the richly woven purple robe of the enthused acolyte. You could just say that she puked. And why did you have to tell us what color it was? We don't need to know that. Also, how many times can you use the word fetid in the course of 2 chapters? A lot, apparently. The priest's lips trembled with a malicious rage as he removed his callous paws from the girl's arms and replaced them with tightly around her undulating neck, shaking her violently to and fro. Replace them with tightly. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Also, that's at least the second time that the term malicious rage has been used. I think it was used in chapter 2 or 3 or 3.5 or whatever, with one of those, when Grigner was dragged into the noble's palace. The girl gasped a tortured groan from her clamped lungs, her sea-blue eyes bulging forth from damp sockets. Cocking her right foot backwards, she leashed it desperately outwards with the strength of a demon-possessed, lodging her sandaled foot squarely between the shaman's testicles. Oh. Okay. You do you. Also sandaled. Sandaled. Spelled in that fashion. Because we all know that sandal, as a noun, is spelled S-A-N-D-L-E, right? Yeah, of course. So, of course the verb would be spelled in a similar fashion. It would be weird if you spelled it, say, S-A-N-D-A-L-E-D, or something similar. It would just be so strange if you were to do that. Also, I'm pretty sure that, out of all I've read so far, this guy has used the word unleashed once, and in every other context has used leashed where he should have used unleashed. This really is a sight to behold. The startled priest released his crushing grip, crimping his body over at the waist, overlooking his recessed belly, wide open in a deep chasm. I assume they mean chasm. I assume that is what is meant there. His face flushed to a rose-red shade of crimson, eyelids fluttering wide with eyeballs protruding blindly outwards from their sockets to their outmost perimeters, while his lips quivered wildly about, allowing an agonized wallow to gust forth as his breath billowed from burning lungs. His hands reached out, clutching his urinary gland. What? Why? 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 Oh no. I'm gonna have to end this recording session after that paragraph because I can't. Just a second. So, first of all, as far as I can tell, a urinary gland isn't a thing. They might mean his bladder, his urinary bladder, or some other gland in that general reproductive area. But there's no organ that I can find that is called the urinary gland. And second of all, if they do mean his bladder, is that really what you would clutch after you've just been kicked in the balls? I don't know. I don't have those. Is that what you would clutch? I'm not sure. Maybe I was wrong about him having been in the middle of a biology course when he wrote this. Maybe I was wrong about that. Or I don't know, maybe back in 1970 they called it the urinary gland. I highly doubt it, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Gotta start the sentence over. His hands reached out, clutching his urinary gland, as his knees wobbled rapidly about for a few seconds, then buckled, causing the ruptured shaman to collapse in an egg-huddled mass to the granite pavement, rolling helplessly about in his agony. An egg-huddled mass? I don't know what that means, an egg-huddled mass. Also the ruptured shaman. That's a very vivid image you're conjuring there. The ruptured shaman. Did she really kick him that hard? I don't know. I don't know if I can take any more of this chapter. How much is there left? Oh, okay, there's not that much. The pathetic screeches of the shaman groveling in dejected misery upon the hand-hewn granite-laid pavement, worn smooth by countless hours of arduous sweat and toil, a welter of ichor oozing through his clenched hands, attracted the perturbed attention of his comrades from their fetid ulations. So, okay, suddenly he decided to spell fetid in the British fashion, after spelling it in the American fashion at least 3 times. And I'm pretty sure he meant ululations rather than ulations. Also, he spelled perturbed wrong. The actions of this rebellious wench bespoke the credence of an unheard of sacrilege. I think they meant unheard of, as in with a hyphen between unheard and of, because they're using it prenominally, as in before a noun. So there should be a hyphen there. Also, they spelled credence wrong, and they spelled sacrilege wrong. Okay, so let me read that again. The actions of this rebellious wench bespoke the credence of an unheard of sacrilege. Never before, in a lost maze of untold eons, had a chosen one dared to demonstrate such blasphemy in the face of the cult's idolic deity. Okay, so it doesn't show up in my Oxford Dictionary, but idolic shows up on Wiktionary as a word. And it looks like I pronounced it right. I don't think they've spelled the word deity correctly even once in this book so far. The girl cowered in unreasoning terror, helpless in the face of the emblazoned acolyte's rage. Her orchid-tousled face smothered betwixt her bulging bosom, as she shut her curled lashed tightly, hoping to open them and find herself awakening from a morbid nightmare. Did they forget a noun somewhere in there where they were meant to describe her eyes? Did they forget a noun somewhere in there? As she shut her curled lashed tightly. Did they forget the word eyes, or perhaps orbs, or some other strange noun that you could use to describe eyeballs? Also, describing hair as orchid again. Why? Why would you describe any hair as orchid in nature? Okay, so apparently orchid can mean a light purple color, both as a noun and as an adjective. Is he saying that she has light purple hair? I want to say I doubt it, but I wouldn't put it past him. But we might never know. We might never know if he uses the word orchid in order to describe someone's hair as being purple in some way, or if he's using it as some other weird adjective. Like maybe her hair looks like an orchid somehow. Like, it has a bunch of weird shapes coming out of her head. This book is exhausting. Also, it occurs to me that I'm assuming that the word tousled has something to do with hair, but that's not a word. That's not actually a word. Not with that spelling, anyway. So, I'm assuming just because of the last place I saw him use the word orchid, that tousled has something to do with her having hair surrounding her face or hanging around her face. But I don't actually know, because that's not a word. Yet the hand of destiny decreed her no such mercy. The antagonized pack of leering shaman, converging tensely upon her prostrate form, were entangled all too lividly in the grim web of reality. So at least they've moved away from spelling the plural of shaman as shaman with an E, but now they have just failed to pluralize it whatsoever. Also, I'm amazed that they spelled prostrate correctly, because even people who could write better than Jim Thice sometimes get that mixed up. So good job, I guess? I don't know. Shuddering from the clammy touch of the shaman as they grappled with her supple form, hands wrenching at her slender arms and legs in all directions, her bare body being molested in the midst of a labyrinth of orange smudges, purpled satin, and mangled skulls, shadowed in an eerie crimson glow. Her confused head reeled, then clouded in a mist of enshrouding ebony, as she lapsed beneath the protective sheet of unconsciousness to a land peach and resign. What? First of all, that entire paragraph was one sentence. That was a paragraph-long sentence, and I started to run out of breath at the end. Also, they spelled unconsciousness wrong. Unconsciousness. I'm not reading that whole sentence again. I'm going to read the last clause. Her confused head reeled, then clouded in a mist of enshrouding ebony, as she lapsed beneath the protective sheet of unconsciousness to a land peach and resign. What does a land peach and resign mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I feel like I can't even laugh at it because I just have so little idea of what they meant by that. I don't know how funny this is supposed to be because I don't know how wrong it is. Well, that's the end of the chapter, so see you in chapter 6, I guess.